Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
Welcome to CrossPolitic's. I have bad news for you, but it's good news too. The bad news is we are off this week. Now, why we are off this week, don't turn off the show yet. We might be off this week, but you're not off this week, and we still have a bunch of great shows planned for you. Do you know CrossPolitic's has been going on since probably, 2016, I believe is when we started, somewhere around August or September 2016. And those shows that we did in 2016, I don't think we started doing video until 2018. So there's like 2 years of show content that if you watch the show, you're not going to get. So if you have a phone, and most of you do, because it's what you're watching me from, you need to go download the Fight, Laugh, Feast app. Inside the app, you will find all of the old archive shows from 2016, 2017. I think we might have done a video or two. Oh, hold on. Got a cough. See, when you're a club member, a Fight, Laugh, Feast club member, you get to not hear coughs because you pay for lovely pieces of equipment like this that allows me to hit the mute button so you don't have to hear a cough. That's why you sign up for the club membership. Otherwise, if you're in headphones, you can hear a cough all in the ear, but you don't have to do that when you are a Fight, Laugh, Feast club member. Anyway, so all these shows are inside the app. There's 2 years of shows that we've done that you probably won't ever get a chance to see if you watch the show or listen to if you watch the show. And if you go inside the App Store, there's a catalog of old shows there, but that's not it. If you sign up to become a Fight, Laugh, Feast club member, you get a lovely catalog of all sorts of other content that we've been making since 2018. Video content, how to raise sturdy kids, eschatology content. You get God and Government for Uncle Gary. You have during the pandemic, we did shows every day and created special content put behind the paywall, historical content. Recently, we just got done doing the spiritual discipleship with Ben Merkle. Seven episodes in that series we're doing with him. And I'm probably not supposed to tell you this, but we're working on a new app and we're building it out right now. It's going to be so awesome. Lots of great content is going to be there too. So go download the app. Get acquainted with some of the old content, get acquainted with some of the new content so that when we come back, you'll be able to say, oh, wow, I have a better understanding of some of the jokes that Gabe tells because they're like 5 years old. Anyway, so sign up right now to become a Fight, Laugh, Feast club member because you get $100 off of the Ark Encounter tickets to the conference, and you don't want to miss that. It's going to be phenomenal. Hold on, let me remember. Who's all going to be there? Let me remind myself. Wait, that's not it. Hold on. I got it. It's right here. I've done it before. I'm a professional. There it goes. Okay. Ken Ham's going to be there. Pastor Doug Wilson's going to be there. Ben Merkle. Of course, Pastor Toby. Dr. Gordon Wilson. Myself. Aaron Snell will be leading in Psalms. It'll be October 11th through the 14th. So go ahead, sign up, become a club member, get your discounts, and get ready to plan your family vacations at the Ark Encounter this October 11th through the 14th. I look forward to seeing you there. So now, while we won't be here, still, you will get a daily news brief. If you don't want to miss out on the news that's happening every day because you have created your habits, we don't want to end that. We want to keep your habits going. So we got a great show planned for you for the rest of the week, old shows, but you can have a new update every day of the news with Garrison Hardy. He's going to give you your daily news brief. So download the app, get the notifications of when those daily news briefs come out so you don't have to lose track of what's happening with the news. Now, this week, I'm really excited about this week. So in 2020, we went on tour for the CrossPolitic's East Coast tour, and we were doing G3. And while we were at G3, we had the chance to have Doug Wilson, James White, and Virgil Walker all on the couch with us in a little Airbnb and did a show with them, and such a great show. So I wanted, that's going to be the first thing up this week. Also, I think one of the first times we ever had Steve Deace on the show, me and Gabe were arguing about this, but I think it was like 2018, but it was Steve Deace and Joe Rigney from Desiring God. And so that's going to be interesting. And then Ride Sally Ride with Doug Wilson will be Wednesday. Thursday, Haunted by Kant with Dr. Tom Price. There's a couple things in that's going to be amazing. One of the things he said, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you. So Thursday's coming up, and then Friday, oh my goodness. Little short guy, but he's packed full of power, Robert Gagnon. So that's just kind of an update of what we're going to be doing all week. Great shows planned for you. Some of you guys, those are old shows that go all the way back to 2018. And some of you guys just came around in the last 3 years. So these are going to be very insightful for you to how we communicate and understanding the thought process that's been developing with CrossPolitic's since we started. So without any further ado, Pastor Doug Wilson, James White, and Virgil Walker walk into an Airbnb.
Where's the intro music?
We are live. You gotta say that every time. We're live on the road here at our Airbnb in Atlanta, Georgia at the G3 conference. Of course, you guys already know Waterboy, Chalk Knox, Pastor Toby. We also have Dr. James White, Virgil in Trouble Walker, and Pastor Doug Wilson.
Wow.
Virgil's in the hot seat.
Yeah.
And then we got Dwayne in the background with the bar.
Yeah.
We got Nick, we got Daniel, we got a whole crew here. Matt from How to Build a Tent in the background.
People coming in too.
And there are more people coming in.
Jerry Longshore.
I haven't had Jared in the background.
From Founders Ministries?
I haven't had dinner tonight, so bear with me. But we're gonna get into this.
This is gonna be one of those.
I like how you put us on this couch and them on that couch. That's the hot seat.
Is it us versus them?
Yeah.
I think
Build bridges, not walls.
We're shirts, y'all skins.
Although, what is this like? There's kind of a pattern here. I don't know
what you're talking about.
I have
It is.
no idea what
Dwayne's
you're
like,
talking about.
it happened.
I just want to say though,
So you're not colorblind.
you did it. I'm just saying you did it. I don't know what you mean by it, but
Okay, so Virgil, you and Daryl had a live show today
Yeah.
at G3.
Yeah.
And you guys were talking about woke worship.
Yeah.
Maybe just kind of start at the basics there. Give us a definition, working definition, and then kind of cover where you guys work to.
Well, what we did was I actually had a conversation with a guy in Omaha, Nebraska, and he was providing oversight for a number of worship pastors. And the conversation that we had went something like, he was really excited about what he was doing in different churches. He was trying to figure out what he could do to ensure that each place where he was, speaking into, these were his words, had a black person, a Hispanic person, a female on the stage.
No Asians?
No,
Not Nebraska.
I was going to say we're in Omaha, Nebraska, brother. I was going to say we're in Omaha, Nebraska. It's
Basic supply and demand there.
Yeah, it's a supply and demand.
Supply and demand.
Oh, the only one Asian guy just can't go to every church. It's just way too much traveling. Way too much traveling.
So out of that, I kind of started germinating an idea around. I knew this was coming up. We were trying to figure out a topic for the G3 conference. I had a conversation basically with Knox. We were talking about some things, kind of texting back and forth. I actually was joking. We were.
Don't joke with me. Right?
Don't joke with me. No, I was really joking. I said, we got to do woke worship, and then we were trying to figure out where would we go with that. From that, I kind of went and did some research and looked at the fact that 1960, it was Martin Luther King Jr. who on Meet the Press had the famous statement that at the 11 o'clock hour in every church in America, that's the most segregated hour in America.
Right.
And then we looked at how that quote from 1960 has continued to permeate the culture everywhere you go.
Especially divided by faith, right?
Absolutely.
It's a huge quote to that book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that and listen to woke evangelicalism, you would think that things for blacks are actually worse today than they were in 1960. There may have been some meat around the bones of the statement for King when he made the statement. those issues are far gone today, but we still act as if things are worse. So we just started kind of investigating that, taking the leap off of that quote and trying to examine, is there reality to that? If so, what kind of weight is there? And really, we really wanted to unpack what are the presuppositions behind the idea in the first place. And really what they are is that there's something sinfully wrong in white evangelicalism. There's something absolutely wrong with the fact that there's an quote-unquote all-white church, while at the same time casting a blind eye to what's happening in predominantly black churches. So we unpacked that. We had a great time kind of doing that, talking through some of those issues, and that was a part of our show.
So what did you conclude from that?
I don't know, there were many conclusions that were really very different. I mean, we talked about common themes that we've talked about on our show before. The issue of the fact that racial reconciliation is a misnomer, that we really need to look at biblical definitions around man, and making sure that we understand that the Bible doesn't see race as it sees ethnicities. The fact
They do the police though.
Yeah, that's the question.
I mean, I like what you're saying. I just want the police to be like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think that's a great point. The issue really is within the church walls. Though, what's happening? What's really going on? Again, there are always going to be racist police officers. There's always going to be racial, or I don't even want to say race because you use that word and you really miss it. There's always going to be sinful men doing evil things in bad places, right? So we know that, and being aware of that, we want to make sure that we don't label an entire culture of people on the basis of what one person is going to do.
What you can do is throw in the question: what is the ideal mix? What's the ideal demographic mix? So if you say that church is too white or this church is too whatever, say, okay, what ought it to be?
Right.
What should it be?
Right.
And if you can't answer the question, and you can't.
That's right. That's right.
You can't answer the question, but if you can't answer the question, then that tells you that whatever you do will never be enough.
Right. Can I try to answer the question though? Because I can hear it right now in my head. It was like, it should look like heaven, Pastor Wilson.
So
it should look like heaven.
So if I'm pastoring a church in northern Idaho, which is Little Norway, right?
I know. Right.
Can we get a close-up of that? Can we get a close-up of that?
I don't think that he ought to act hurt because he moved there.
That's right. He got a point. And I'm happy about it.
I should take this opportunity to tell a story on the family. When we had the Shannons over at our house for Sabbath dinner when they first arrived in Moscow, and Blair, one of my granddaughters, was still a lap child, maybe 2 years old, and my wife was talking to Sharon, and she was telling about the woes they had in Georgia, and she said, and then we concluded that we were pretty much the only black Presbyterians in Georgia. and then true. Blair leaned forward and said, and we're the pink ones. But the point is, if you're a pastor in Finland,
right.
If you're a pastor in the Congo, if you're a pastor in central China, why on earth does your church have to look like heaven?
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're turning the church into a social engineering lab,
right,
where you're trying to picture what you think heaven's going to be like, and who has a good idea of that, and then you're postulating what the ratios are going to be,
right,
and then you're saying, and then you're guilting everybody for not having those ratios, and if they attain to those ratios, that's when you would change your mind, because oh no, it's not. That's not good enough, because woke Christianity runs on guilt,
right.
And whatever you do, it will never ever be enough by definition.
At the end of the day, this is Christ's church, and He's the one who builds His church.
Right.
And so we're not the ones to kind of go out and figure out aesthetically what that needs to look like and how we need to. I use the term evangelistic affirmative action. right? We're trying to figure out how we go about bringing in the right number. Okay, we got 2 blacks today. I guess I want to evangelize to any more black people. I need to go evangelize to this many Hispanics.
Can't share the gospel
Can't
with you.
share the gospel with you.
We got enough white people, so we don't need that at all. Right? Like, we're good there.
Our quotas are full.
Right.
Well, there is this, just to do a little pushback, there is something that's really interesting, though, and it's really beautiful in the culture of Christians that come together. When you see your Asian brothers and sisters from other countries, and you see your African brothers from other countries, and you guys come together and you start sharing food and you understand the gospel in these contexts, that's a beautiful thing.
It is, but the unity in that is on the basis of Christ and Him crucified.
Right, and I think that there's a push to try and say, okay, we believe that, we hold to that, but we want to try and manufacture that the best we can, or to act like there hasn't been a push in one way or another to drive by churches that you should be going to, or could be going to, because of the very issue of race. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get it. I think we've been around each other long enough, at least to know. I come from a more Pentecostal background, right?
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, come on, somebody, right?
He coming out. You leave a Kia. Should have wore a bow tie.
I believe a Kia, right? So I come from that background, and when
I translate later.
No, thank you.
and when I came to Omaha, Nebraska, from that background, Carlton Pearson, I don't know if you're familiar with his story. Heretic Carlton Pearson. I came from that church. I came from that.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I was in the middle of that whole basis of that movie that was put together on Netflix come Sunday. I was.
Carlton's hair was too. Anyway,
it was VHS back then, right?
My point was, I came from that into this context where I got told when I went to Omaha that I would double the black population by the time I got there, right? I mean, the whole state's maybe 3% minority, right? 3% black anyway.
Right.
So I was not looking for a Baptist church. I was looking for everything that you're talking about. I was looking for a church that were people who looked like me, and the music had to sound like this, and the preacher had to tune up on Sunday morning, right? So for me, when I went to all of those churches, and for some odd reason, man, it never felt right to me, and I think it was at that time the Lord was really drawing me more closely to more closely align with the truth of His Word. Gave me a hunger for Scripture, gave me a hunger for the truth, and I find myself at this predominantly white, 98% white church where the teaching is awesome, right?
Well, your personal preference aren't driving necessarily what defines a church.
They weren't. It was God's truth, His Word rightly preached, and so that's where I landed.
The issue is get to, not got to.
Right.
So in the church in Christ, we get to fellowship across ethnic boundaries and national boundaries. We have the freedom to do that, but preachers particularly love to flip it because guilt is a wonderful motivator, they think. It's a terrible motivator, actually, but they want to say, you've got to. Isn't it a wonderful thing when there's a robust turnout to Wednesday night prayer meeting?
Right.
Well, you all got to be there.
Right.
And well, that's a buzzkill, right? You're killing it by introducing law into things that there's no. You don't have any business introducing the law there.
So, Virgil, when this worship pastor guy that you used to start this.
Well, he doesn't know that until this comes out, and then he'll know that.
Well, we won't say any names. We won't say any names. Virgil, you're in trouble, Walker.
Right.
Is that what you call him?
Trouble Walker.
No, but so what did you say, or what would you say in a situation like that, where you're working with somebody that they're wanting to talk that way about quotas? What do you say?
Well, two things. I want to go back really quickly to something that you said about loving this diverse, mix of church.
Yeah.
I'm not any less in love with the people of God at the church that I'm at because they're all white. Than I would be in a cultural context where there were people of different ethnicities.
And because one thing too that was mistaken, what I was saying was that there's I was thinking monolithic about white people in that context, right?
Sure.
I said something that cultures inside of white culture. I said it's one thing.
Right.
That's a monolithic statement that I made by itself.
Absolutely. To answer your question, I just asked him questions.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I mean, I hadn't really formulated my thought process around how to address the issue. I hadn't really formulated the woke worship idea at all. Yeah. I mean, as he was saying this to me, I was like, really? Is that the... I mean, I would... And I kind of posited to him, I would think he would try to find the best singers the best musicians.
The best musicians?
Like the people who love God and worship Him.
Shocker.
Yeah, that would be. Wouldn't that be the motivation rather than the level of melanin in their skin? Oh, I guess you have a point. And we kind of left it there. I didn't push the envelope much.
All right. Well, I want to. I know we're about out of time.
So look at you respecting the clock.
Look, I got you, bro. I got you. I don't usually.
Sanctification.
Yeah, I'm growing. Okay. I'm growing. When we come back.
Yes. So happy right now. You got 60 seconds.
I'm watching it.
Okay.
I'm going to land this thing. Okay. I want to ask Pastor Doug though when we get back. What makes modern churches susceptible to this thing? All right.
More on CrossPolitic. Right after this.
What music?
It's playing. You just don't hear it.
All right.
That's
Here we go. I hear it. I feel it. I feel it.
Music of the angels.
Welcome back to CrossPolitic. We are in Atlanta, Georgia at the G3 conference, and we are hanging in our bed and breakfast.
Airbnb.
Bed and breakfast.
Airbnb. I wouldn't do that with you.
Thanks, Gabe. Sorry, Gabe's hungry. He hasn't eaten dinner yet.
Needs a Snickers.
He's hangry.
That's right. Dr. James White with us. We got Mr. Virgil Walker. Mr. Virgil, he's about to be in trouble, Walker.
Thanks for that.
Pastor Douglas.
Always
he
been in
really
trouble.
isn't indeed.
Always is in trouble.
You're participating in the troublemaking.
If you sit on the same couch, you're in trouble.
The troubled couch.
Anybody that drove by this house is in trouble. Right.
Will be featured on certain blogs tomorrow.
So, Doug, what, in your estimation, has made us susceptible to this woke business? I mean, so the Christian church, there's, and conservative, and specifically, I'm not talking about the liberals. I'm talking about
They've been woke.
I mean, but conservatives who believe in the inerrancy of Scripture, even Calvinists, people who believe in the sovereignty of God, look back to Calvin, all this kind of stuff. Why have we been susceptible to?
If you say the NIV, a debate starts right here.
That's actually
Translation.
We're coming to you.
It goes way before the NIV, all the way back to Westcott and Hort.
There you go. There you go. We're ready to go. Throw down.
start it. I got put
You're the moderator. You're the moderator.
The best comes off.
That's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say is that I'd say it's a combination of two things. One is evangelicals in North America for 250, 300 years have been riding waves. Evangelicals are surfers, right? They are interested in the next big thing, and some of this. And I'm not an opponent of revival by any means, but there's, as Ian Murray shows, there's a difference between revival and revivalism.
Right.
And revivalism is surfing. And if there's anything evangelicals do, it's to catch the latest thing. You remember Promise Keepers. Promise Keepers was the thing.
Yeah.
There's always a thing, right? And it's filling stadiums or filling auditoriums, or this is the thing that excites everybody. We're all about getting numbers. And so I think that's just part of the evangelical cultural DNA that everybody has. Moderate, liberal, conservative, everybody sort of participates in that. The second thing is that I think it goes back to a misstep in the 80s when the whole theonomy controversy
Tyler, Texas, that
blew
whole
up.
thing.
Yeah. Now if someone says, "Are you a theonomist?" I say, "Oh no, I hate God's law." And of course, that reveals that every Christian is a theonomist,
Right.
In that we should do what God says to do.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right?
Now,
Dr. White.
Now you know his middle name is In Trouble.
I'm in trouble.
You're welcome to come to Roscoe. We can actually go up 50% more.
they really will be in trouble if you don't let me finish the sentence. So theonomy is simply doing it God's way, and everybody agrees on that. The real debate is over exegesis. What did God tell us to do?
Right.
Are these Mosaic laws still applicable in the same way, etc. That's an exegetical debate. Okay, but what happened was the recons had their own problems, but they made that a debate back in the 80s. It was a big debate. Is God's law applicable in modern times? And basically the theonomists were shut down, run out of town. The whole thing was no. But then what happened, and it was, I think this was the real move in it, there was, you might call it soft leftist theonomy. Came in. Think about N.T. Wright on third world debt.
Jim Wallace. You think about like Jim Wallace?
Tony Campolo,
Jim Wallace, where they say they love themselves some Jubilee laws. They love them, but it's cherry picking out of the Old Testament. Right. And so what happened was everybody felt kind of sheepish. Conservatives felt kind of sheepish about banishing the Bible from discussions of social justice, justice in society. And then some people were right there at the door saying, well, we really need to address the root causes of poverty. And it was just standard issue liberalism decked out in Bible verses. And because people had a guilty conscience, because they say what you want about the recons, at least they read the whole Bible without flinching. They said, well, that's a tough one, but let's go for it. That sort of thing. And this was just unabashed cherry picking. And so if you said to N.T. Wright, who wants to forgive all third world debt, well, the Old Testament says other stuff too. He'd say, "Oh no, we can't do that." Well, why are you just selectively?
Why just the year of Jubilee?
And what's happening is the climate is a totalitarian, soft leftist climate, and this enabled conservatives to be talking a strong Bible game while they were actually going along with what the world was saying. That's my thesis.
Jay?
Catching a wave and feel good, scratch and sniff theonomy.
I put some wind in those sails. I want to know what your take is on
Scratch and sniff theonomy. That's
Yes.
fascinating. I have to sit around for 5 minutes to come up with those. This is why I don't bother.
You are wearing an awesome sweater vest.
I am.
Which makes up for everything.
I am. Wait till I buy Doug a
real one?
A real coochie.
Oh, he's going down.
Is that making it to Moscow?
Make it as African as possible.
They're not African. They're actually Australian. But the look on his face.
All the Australians are offended right now.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Doug would never be caught dead in one of those.
I don't know. He might have a big enough heart to not make me feel too badly.
We could arrange a big time bet or something.
Something. You have to wear a koozie. Okay.
Now, how do you think we got here? Kind of piggybacking on that.
Well, I like the insight that was just offered. That's certainly one way of looking at how the door was left open. But it's, to be honest with you, I don't think the door was on any hinges in the first place.
What door?
Even evangelicalism is canonically challenged. It has 27 books, and not all of them are equal. John and Romans are the most inspired, and Hebrews is barely in the group.
Yeah, but shut these cameras off.
And does James even show up?
James is downright. Luther's right. Throw Jimmy out.
Throw Jimmy out.
Sorry, Jimmy.
But just as Rome has a Deuterocanon, a secondary canon for the Apocrypha books, we have a Deuterocanon. The Old Testament is viewed as primarily a storybook.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you read 1 Corinthians and you read Paul saying, you should have known that the guy who's engaged in incest needs to be put out. Well, how was he supposed to know that? By reading John? No.
Wow.
You should know. Wow, that's good.
Tomorrow at G3, I'm going to be doing something really weird. I'm preaching on Isaiah 6, but I'm preaching from the Greek Septuagint.
Okay.
And I've asked them there, have you ever had anyone preach directly from the Greek Septuagint? No English translation, just straight from the Greek Septuagint. And they're like, no, and we're a little scared. So the reason I'm doing that is the Septuagint was the Bible of the early church.
Right.
That was what When Paul said to Timothy, the scriptures which are able to make you wise unto salvation through faith which is in Christ Jesus. That's what he was talking about, was the Old Testament, and what Timothy, as a Greek-speaking guy, would have been what we call the Greek Septuagint.
Well, all scripture inspired.
And that's what it was in reference to.
Yeah.
And functionally, evangelicals view the Mosaic Law as a curiosity. So the idea that there is actually a moral element, most evangelicals that I knew growing up would have said, we're not under the law, we're under grace. Which means we don't worry about any of that stuff back there. We don't read it, we don't look at it, we don't try to understand it, we don't try to see how it reflected God's character.
Right.
We don't try to make any type of modern application as to what the moral content of this revelation tells us about God's character. That just is not a part of the vast majority of evangelicalism. So we didn't have any hinges on the door, so these guys come along and they start talking about justice.
Right.
How are they supposed to define it? Because the New Testament writers are assuming we already have a body of revelation that has revealed what God's holy character is, and so we don't have to repeat everything. But since they didn't, and all you've got is the New Testament, what have you got? How can you even analyze what's being said to you? And you're in deep trouble.
And on top of that, we're not under the law, we're under grace, is from Romans 6:14. And I'll quote from the NIV here for you. The full verse says, "For sin shall not be your master, for you are not under law, but under grace." The popular received wisdom among evangelicals is that law is strict standards. Grace means that God loosened his standards. So in the Old Testament you had to do it, and in the New Testament, you don't really have to. Boys will be boys. And so what happens is, but he doesn't change the definition of sin. It's sin shall not be your master, for you're not under law. So being under law for Paul meant condemnation. It meant you were under law when you couldn't stop sinning, and you couldn't stop being condemned because you couldn't stop sinning. And the law was strict and condemned you. But being under grace means that you're liberated from sin. You're liberated from condemnation. But the definition of sin doesn't change. Right? The definition of God's, it's still a violation of God's holy character as revealed in his word.
A few years ago I did a series, 35 long sermon series.
Through Romans
That's
chapter
not
1 verse 16
No, it's not. But on the holiness code. And I looked for, not only did we do the holiness code in Leviticus, but we jumped into Deuteronomy. We covered the toughest texts. I didn't want to dodge anything. So if two men are fighting and a woman reaches out and grabs the man, her hands, we did a sermon on that. Okay.
Have you ever done a sermon on that?
Was that Seeker Sunday?
No. we didn't have a Seeker Sunday. That would have ended that.
All the seekers would be interested.
The reason we did that was I didn't want the people in my congregation to be able to say to anyone, we've never addressed those things because why? Well, because we really do believe all Scripture is theopneustos, including that text.
C.S. Lewis once said that of some older preachers of another era, he said if the text had had smallpox, the sermon wouldn't have caught it.
Wow. Yeah, we would have gotten the smallpox because we went after everything. And the point was that you can and you must deal with the reality. If you're going to answer what our society is saying to us on issues such as homosexuality, marriage, genetic manipulation, I don't care what it is, if we don't have everything God has given to us in Scripture, we're in trouble. We're going to be guessing.
See,
we're going to be making it up as we go along.
I got to stop us right here. See, this is great. We're going to keep going. But you're not. You're going to move on to the next show. But if you are a Fight Laugh Feast Club member, you're going to get whatever happens in the next 30, 40, hour and a half.
We ain't going to sleep till we get this problem solved.
So if you're single,
not getting lunch either.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. So until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic's.
I personally don't think we could have made Virgil any more uncomfortable. That's my own thoughts on this. All right, I'm looking forward to an awesome week with you guys. We will see you tomorrow for more Cross Politics. We'll have Steve Dace and Joe Rigney. The first time we had Steve Dace on the show. I'll tell you a little story about that tomorrow on Cross Politics. So if you're single, get married. And if you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.
Putting off writing that proposal again? Yeah, we've been there. Proposal writing can be tough. It takes work, and if you're not careful, you can set up your company for failure. Well, that's where we come in. Smart Pricing Table is an innovative application that focuses on, well, the pricing table. Instead of a static document and constant back and forth, our platform creates interactive proposals that empower your prospects. Not sure if something is needed? Make it optional. Have complicated services that vary? Let your customer do the work with line item upsells. Have reoccurring services? Easy peasy. With Smart Pricing Table, you can create attractive proposals quickly. And our system is built for reuse, so you can get out of that hamster wheel. Give your customers choice and close deals quickly with Smart Pricing Table.